I once asked, if you're innocent, why are you taking the Fifth Amendment?
You see, the mob takes the Fifth. If you're innocent, why are you taking the Fifth Amendment?
Anyone in my position not taking the Fifth Amendment would be a fool, an absolute fool.
What a difference an investigation makes. Donald Trump has gone from only people guilty of crimes take the Fifth Amendment to taking the Fifth Amendment more than 400 times in under oath testimony in an investigation by New York's Attorney General Letitia James. We now have a small portion of the video of that under oath testimony because this portion of the testimony was made public in filings in the case by the Attorney General. Here is tonight's episode of Donald Trump under oath.
Mr. Trump, you've testified under oath many times. Is that correct?
Yes.
You have the right to refuse to answer any question if a truthful answer to the question would tend to incriminate you. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Okay. And any willful misstatement by you may constitute perjury. Do you understand that, sir?
Yes. I respectfully decline to answer the questions under the rights and privileges afforded to every citizen under the United States Constitution. This will be my answer to any further questions.
Included among the rights and privileges afforded every citizen under the United States Constitution, does that include the Fifth Amendment right to avoid incrimination?
Yes.
So your counsel?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Trump, the focus of our investigation and what we are primarily going to cover today involves the presentation of your statements of financial condition between 2011 and the present. I take it you are generally familiar with those statements. Is that correct?
For all of the reasons provided in my answer, which is incorporated herein, in its entirety, I decline to answer the question.
You are currently the president of the Trump Organization. Is that correct?
Same answer.
The 2019 Statement of Financial Condition contained false and misleading valuations and statements. Is that correct?
Same answer.
You knew at the time it was finalized that the year 2019 Statement of Financial Condition contained false and misleading statements. Is that correct?
Same answer.
And here is Donald Trump's reaction to Donald Trump's testimony.
Taking the Fifth. I think it's disgraceful. Fifth Amendment, Fifth Amendment, Fifth Amendment. Horrible. Horrible.
Joining us now is Barbara McQuaid, former U.S. attorney and law professor at the University of Michigan Law School. She is an MSNBC legal analyst. Barbara, what do you see when you can now literally see Donald Trump as a witness and how he appears as a witness under oath?
Well, Lawrence, first, I don't criticize anyone who does invoke their Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. It is indeed a right we all have under the Constitution. It protects the guilty and it protects the innocent. But it is the hypocrisy that I find so appalling by Donald Trump. He has historically criticized those who invoke their Fifth Amendment rights. And then when the time comes, he does so. And you'll notice he can't bring himself to say the words. He does not want there to be a recording of him saying, I am invoking my Fifth Amendment right. Instead, he says the rights enjoyed by all citizens under the Constitution. They have to say, you mean the Fifth? Yeah. And then as he repeats it, it's, same answer, same answer. So he doesn't say I'm taking the Fifth. I think that's a very interesting tell, the shame he feels to the extent he is allowed to feel shame in being such a hypocrite in the way he has criticized those who invoke the Fifth and yet invoking it himself.
When I used to hang around courtrooms a lot, you could hear the criminal defense lawyers that I knew on the elevator together. They would never ask the childish question, did your guy do it? The only thing they'd ever say to judge how difficult someone's case was, can you put your guy on the stand? Because that tells you how much strength your defense has or doesn't have. And it tells you how good your defendant is as a possible witness. And there are some people they just couldn't put on the stand because there's just no way they could handle it. Donald Trump strikes me as one of those people so far on what we've seen. If you're Fonnie Willis and you're imagining Donald Trump testifying in his own defense under oath, explaining what he meant when he was talking to the Attorney General, saying the Secretary of State in Georgia, asking him to find 11,000 votes. I mean, if you're Fonnie Willis, you have to be pretty confident tonight that Donald Trump would not be able to answer a question like that.
I think it would be akin to legal malpractice to allow Donald Trump to take the stand. He speaks in what Jim Comey referred to as word salad, throwing out a lot of words that often don't add up to full sentences. He at times seems incapable of telling the truth. He at times seems incapable of knowing what the truth is. And when perjury is on the line, you can make matters worse by lying. I think that any responsible lawyer would keep him off the stand. But if for some reason he were to testify, I think a prosecutor would lick their chops at the opportunity to expose his lies.
And Barbara, I mentioned the Georgia case specifically in terms of Donald Trump testifying, because if he is criminally charged in that case, the defense has to be Donald Trump on the witness stand explaining what he meant when he said that to the Secretary of State about find me 11,000 votes. That's how you get an acquittal. There's a satisfactory explanation from Donald Trump under oath about that conversation. And I just can't imagine that happening in the courtroom.
Now, if there is a satisfactory explanation, but if a lawyer wants to behave ethically and there is not a satisfactory explanation, you can't sponsor perjured testimony. And so most often in criminal cases, it is the burden of proof is on the prosecution to prove the case. And so the prosecution will simply use cross-examination and argument to try to persuade the jury that the prosecution has failed to meet its burden of proof. But I agree with you, in light of that phone call, it's really out there. And I think a jury would very much want to hear that there's some innocent explanation for that. A defendant certainly has a right not to testify, but if you are the lawyer for Donald Trump, I don't see how you put him on the stand.
We may be getting more of Donald Trump under oath this year. This could be the year for it. Barbara McQuaid, thank you very much for joining us on our first episode of Donald Trump under oath. Thank you, Barbara.
Ay, ay, ay,